Hello everybody, this is Isaac for Prism, and today we have the very first episode of Cross Section, our weekly podcast in which we run down the events of the week. So I'm joined as ever by Andrew.
Hello.
And yeah, let's get started with today's podcast. So the first section here is the news of the week, and the first bit of news we've got is pretty interesting. It's Nokia, their new Lumia 1020 with a 41 megapixel camera. Now, this was just yesterday, on Thursday, they came out and they announced this new device that had been rumoured for a while. And they said 41 megapixel camera and that they were reinventing zoom. Now, what do they mean by this? Well, by reinventing zoom, you take a 41 megapixel photo and then you just zoom in afterwards. So you zoom in to the picture afterwards to get your shots. So that was quite interesting. They showed some really good demos for this. One of them was a needle in a haystack. So they actually threw a needle into a haystack, took a photo of the haystack, and then they zoomed into the haystack and you could actually look around to locate where the needle was. So that just shows how high quality this camera is, especially for a smartphone. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, and they were selling a lot through the camera qualities on the 1020.
That's the selling point really of the Lumia, is that they have the really high,
because it is essentially quality. The same OS as the 920.
It is exactly the same operating system. It's all running on Windows Phone 8 with the Nokia Lumia devices, which in my opinion isn't the best OS out there. I think Nokia would have had so much more success if they opted for something such as Android or they couldn't do iOS, but if they opted for Android, they would have had a much better success rate so far. I mean, the Lumias are doing really well. It's the biggest seller for Lumia at the moment, I believe, is AT&T over in the States, and in the UK, I believe that to be EE. So they're not selling badly. It's just they're not getting that market share that they crave.
Well, that's what they want to sell it on. The fact that they are the third kind of OS out there. They want to be different to Android and iOS. I mean, and you're right in saying that they would be in some ways a lot better off on Android because it's a more established operating system. But that's what they want to do. They want to establish one on their own. They want to be recognised for that. Yeah,
but they're not, in essence, establishing their own operating system. They're using the Windows Phone 8 OS, which is what Microsoft, they need to be spending time to promote that OS much more than they are. At the moment, they're not putting much money into it. Now, this is something that's changing with the Lumia 1020. Both AT&T and Nokia, along with Microsoft, are putting millions and millions into the advertising campaign for this phone, as was said on stage on Thursday.
Yeah.
So hopefully this could pave a new road for Nokia. They really need to be pushing these products much more. They've done a lot of stuff to promote it with Deadmau5. They've had events in London.
The whole projecting onto a skyscraper of the backdrop. Yeah, that was really good as a campaign. So they've
done some really good campaigns, but they're not pushing them out there. They're not getting that attention they need.
And one of the questions at the event, actually, from the press, I think it was from Forbes, one of them said, I love the Lumia, and I've got one in my purse, but when I went into the store to go and buy an AT&T store to go and buy it, the guy selling it to me didn't know anything.
The thing, she also said that he was more trying to sell her a different phone compared to that.
Yes.
And it's like, if they're wanting to go and get a Windows Phone device, you should be selling them the Windows Phone device. You should have been taught by your boss exactly what it is that people need to know about these devices for you to sell them.
They shouldn't have to be trying to sell a smartphone on its camera features, which are bloody good.
I mean, their camera's brilliant. There's only one issue with it. They didn't mention sensor size, because the sensor size is extremely small. It's about the size of your fingernail, so it's not going to get much light into it. It's not going to be that brilliant of a camera. They're sort of saying, this is rivaling the cameras you can buy in, literally just standalone cameras. But the fact that the sensor isn't that big, it's not entirely rivaling it. It may be 41 megapixel, but you can't use those 41 megapixels to their full advantage.
One of the other things that they did with the camera was you can take a kind of, they called it a live photo. So what you can do, you can you can put a photo, take your camera out, and you can see kind of things like coffee shops.
That's geotagging thing, isn't it? That we're using. So it's augmented technology. What they're doing is you go into the maps and you say, oh, I want to see what coffee shops are nearby, and then you can go straight into your camera, pan around, and you'll be able to see exactly where those coffee shops are. Direction. You can zoom in to see how far away they are, which is a really, really cool feature. But are people going to use it in the real world? Probably not. They're probably just happy enough to just be like, there it is, let's go.
It is a bit utopian.
It's a gimmick.
Yes.
That's what I think it is. It's just a gimmick to help them try and sell the device. So yeah, that's the Nokia Lumia 1020. Should be coming out for $299.
It's fairly cheap for a smartphone.
At the end of this month, isn't it? At the end of July.
I think this quarter.
Yeah. So yeah, that's when it's going to be coming out. Not too sure on the UK prices or release date just yet, but we'll have more news on that as it comes.
I think Europe was the kind of similar quarter, if not a bit later.
They generally release States and then Europe, so should be good. Right, so the next bit of news this week is a very interesting one. It's on the game I am most looking forward to this year, and that is Watch Dogs. And the fact that they've got an engine that allows smooth game entry and exit. Andrew, if you'd like to explain a bit more on this.
Yeah, essentially what it means is you can be playing online or offline and seamlessly, kind of at the flick of a button or something, switch in between the two.
I believe it's not like you don't have to do any interaction. Like if someone wants to come and do some like gameplay with you, they will, for example, get assigned you as a target.
Yeah.
And they will appear in the game as an NPC. You won't know anything different. They'll just look like an NPC, and their mission will be to assassinate you, to get rid of you out of the game. So you have to sort of preemptively plan in case this happens. And this can happen at any point in time.
Yeah. And it's not too clear whether that's going to be a notification that pops up, like someone is stalking you, watch out, or you just have to...
I hope it won't be.
Or you're just going to have to be on your guard.
Next-gen gameplay, what I really want to happen is, I don't want to be notified of this stuff. I just want it to happen. Because then, if you're notified, you can plan to defend yourself and know what to do. Whether you just think it's a normal NPC, the only thing you will notice is erratic behaviour, and you have to look out for that kind of thing as you're playing. You won't have a notification say, oh, I need to start looking out for that. That's going to be something you have to do.
And if they do, constantly through gameplay. But like I say, it's not made clear as whether that's...
Yeah, I think they've still got some explaining to do this. But I think this is going to be amazing. One of the things they mentioned was that it's going to be based on the 4 principles of dynamism, impact, connectivity, and flexibility. Yeah. So the dynamism means it's going to be forever changing. There's going to be different ways that people will be able to affect your game, which is going to be fantastic. Looking forward to that. Impact, obviously it's going to have a huge impact on your gameplay because you're going to be more cautious, as we just mentioned. The connectivity, it's going to be bringing multiplayer into a single-player experience, and that seems to be something that most of the next-gen games are talking about, and it's something I'm so interested to try out. It's going to be mind-blowing, hopefully.
Yeah. So
I'm really excited for that. And then the flexibility, I think that's sort of, it's too similar to the dynamism aspect, what I've got from it.
It's a strapline, it's a corporate strapline.
Yeah. I mean, the flexibility stuff, I think what they're implying with that is exactly the same as the dynamism, that it's going to be forever changing. Different things can happen in different ways, and you always have that ability to react to them in different ways. So yeah, this is something that's really interesting for me. I'm so excited for Watch Dogs, and cannot wait for it to come out. And we're definitely going to have a review of that sometime just after release.
I think we're going to be fighting for each other for who's reviewing it.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very fun game. At least I hope so. I haven't played any of it yet.
From what we've seen so far at E3 and all these kind of things and all the press releases, it looks bloody good. It
definitely looks like it's going to be a winner.
And it's the kind of, in some ways, it's the kind of heir to Assassin's Creed. In a kind of stealth.
Yeah, I think Assassin's Creed is starting to get quite old, even though their open world features that they've got. Assassin's Creed 4 is going to be brilliant for that.
I think it's just
no load screens.
The kind of going through the kind of different eras. They'll get to a point.
The thing is with Assassin's Creed, there's so many different eras, so many different events that have happened in history that they can have a part in. So Assassin's Creed can have a very long lifespan, so long as they keep evolving it to fit that.
So it's not samey like the kind of Call of Duty franchise has become.
Yeah, that's the issue. Call of Duty, completely different game style, but they have just had it every game literally exactly the same storyline, exactly the same multiplayer. What Assassin's Creed have done, every time they've released the game, they've changed the multiplayer, so it's slightly different. There's different ways to do things, new modes in it. And the actual single player, especially going into this next-gen console release, so much different. This is the first one where it's been truly open world. You can literally go anywhere. And that's just going to be fantastic. They had a gameplay trailer come out the other day, and that was great. But I think we're going a bit off topic now.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next piece of news, which is Vine joins Windows Phone 8 in Lumia 1020 tie-in. So Andrew, if you'd like to talk about that.
Yes. Essentially what they've done is they've said at the Nokia event yesterday that Vine is coming to Windows Phone 8. It's only been previously available on iOS and Android. So now it's coming to Windows Phone 8. It's a relatively big coup for Windows Phone because it's a big service.
The issue with Windows Phone, they don't have the applications that they need. Instagram isn't on there yet. I believe Facebook's... They've had an app since pretty much the beginning, but it's not a very good app. It's a pretty bad...
It's because there's no market for
app
it.
for it. There is a market. I know a lot of people who have Windows phones, but they all say the same thing. There's no apps. There is not the apps that they want to be able to use. I've got a friend who has been on Windows Phone now since Windows Phone 7, and I was speaking to him the other day, and he's about to upgrade to go to an iPhone because he's had enough of not being able to use the apps. I think the Snapchat version they've got, completely different name, made by a different company, integrates with Snapchat, but is a very, very rubbish app. It is a terrible app. It doesn't allow you to do the same things as Snapchat. It just literally allows you to take a photo and send it. You can't do the video stuff. The tagging isn't as good, like putting your little captions on. So that's the issue with Windows phones. They're not getting the first-party apps, they're getting third-party apps, which are using the APIs. And that's something that hopefully they don't do with Vine. Because at the moment, Vine haven't actually come out and said, oh yeah, we're definitely going to be putting this app onto here ourselves. They've just said there's a Vine app going onto there. So whether this is going to be third-party developed or developed in-house, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully, for the Windows users, they're going to be getting a first-party in-house developed app.
And I just wonder whether one of the reasons that they're going on the Windows Phone is because Instagram's just come out and they want to get ahead on the Windows Phone 8. Instagram has just released a kind of video sharing service.
Yeah. So they want to get ahead onto that. I mean, Instagram's not even on there at the moment.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Instagram, it's a fake version called Hipstagram.
Hipstagram.
Bad name, I know. But yeah, that's what's on there at the moment. And it's not the best application.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
That's the Vine news. Now the next thing is something that's really, really interesting me, and that is flexible technology. An article came out the other day, and it was saying how we can literally create liquid metal structures using 3D printing, and this will allow for flexible electronics. This will be really, really, really good for wearable tech, because you have to think, like, when the iWatch comes out, if it comes out, still rumoured, but there's a lot of stuff pointing towards it coming out, you want to be able to have the watch to fit nicely onto your arm. And the best way to do that is to have something flexible, something that can flex around and keep the electronics, say, in the actual strap as well.
Well, I mean, it's rumoured for announcement kind of later on this year, going into next year.
Yeah, the iWatches, yeah.
Yeah, and release kind of next year. But and this technology is extremely kind of raw and new. And undeveloped.
It definitely won't be in Gen 1.
Oh, absolutely. But it's
probably not Gen 2, but by Gen 3, I think they should start putting stuff into it.
It's definitely what Apple are already looking at, because they're kind of looking 10
They've been looking at liquid metal stuff for years.
They've always been looking 10 steps ahead with everything they do. Look at Jobs' plans for everything. There'll probably still be a couple of Jobs' ideas.
I think Apple at the moment is still pretty much running off of Jobs' ideas. The Apple TV, which is rumoured for release, which is an actual TV set as opposed to the box. This was something he was really passionate about and said that they were constantly working on to improve. And it was something that they really wanted to change. And that still seems to be the same tune from Tim Cook. He wants to go into the TV market. We know this. He's mentioned this many times, especially at All Things D. So it's going to be something to watch out for. But yeah, wearable tech is going to be something we're going to be seeing a lot more of. And I think this new technology that's being developed is going to be a big player in this.
Yeah, but like we say, it's very young at the moment. It's only just been kind of released as a discovery. It's going to be a couple of years before we see any kind of advancement into commercial use.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a few years, but I think companies right now are going to be throwing a lot of cash trying to get exclusivity on this at the moment.
We as the media are probably a couple of steps behind in terms of what they know, because they've been probably looking at this for a good
It's definitely the
2
case.
years, at least.
And anyone in the media that does know will have been forced to sign an NDA. So,
yeah,
not allowed to say. That's the issue. Right, now the final bit of news for this week is Samsung. Yeah,
this is an odd story.
It's looking very good for Samsung at the moment with regards to their profits, but investors, they're still not happy.
They are very tricky to please investors, because basically what's happened is Samsung have achieved a record quarterly profit for this quarter, $8.3 billion. Some majority of companies don't reach $1 billion in a year, let alone 8.3 in a quarter. So, and you might think that's a cause for cracking out champagne, but what investors are looking for is growth, and what this has shown based on kind of previous records for Samsung is it's just steady. It's kind of.
I think the issue is
it's come to the flat line.
Yeah, they're starting to reach the flat line. I mean, they've had really good growth, and they're expected to have a 6% growth this quarter compared to the last. And they didn't reach that. Even though they made a huge profit of $8.3 billion, they still increased their profits from the previous quarter.
It was 6% under their expectations, which is why investors are kind of wary.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is weird. And the investor mindset is always look to grow. You don't settle for stability. You look for growth.
Yeah.
And so
the thing is, though, the issue you can only reach a certain point, and then you are going to start leveling out. Apple's they are a perfect example of this. Earlier on this year, they became the richest company in the world, and then they just dropped and leveled out. I mean, coming towards the end of this year, Apple are definitely going to have a peak because people are going to get interested. Oh, iWatch is coming out. We can make some money off of this.
Look when they release the next gen stuff, and
it's always a peak. Always a peak leading up to it.
Yes.
And then afterwards, it tends to continue before we have a drop.
It's the first time in a good couple of years now that their share price went under $400, and everyone was getting really concerned. But actually, this is the time to buy.
Yeah, it's the time to buy because a few months' time, it's going to rocket up just before they have their fall announcements.
Go back to 550, which is incredible. I mean, 380 is incredible, which is what it was at a couple of weeks ago.
100 is incredible, really, for a share price. That's a very good share price, though.
Well, I just want to have a share price.
But yeah, that is the story. Samsung can't please their investors at the moment. Hopefully, in the next quarter, they boost this up and can start pleasing their investors. But 8.3 billion, still a very, very good profit.
I mean, as outsiders, you question the kind of why do you think that's bad? But you can understand the kind of mindset. If you think about what investors want,
you can definitely understand why they're doing it.
But I mean, give it 6 months, they'll be cracking out that champagne.
Yeah, they'll definitely be making.
There'll be another Galaxy out or something. And they'll just be like,
yeah, it's going to be good for Samsung. Just when it happens, who knows? Okay, so now we need to move on to the next section of the podcast, which is our weekly discussion. So each week, what we're going to be doing is discussing one of the sort of big topics of the week from within the realms of media. So this week, some people have taken to the web in anger at Microsoft yet again. But this time it's for something that wasn't expected. This time it was due to the fact that Microsoft changed their DRM policies. So the fact that Microsoft went from having really draconian DRM back to having no DRM, people have gone into uproar. And so far, at the time of writing our article that went up earlier today, 17,801 people have signed the petition to get Microsoft to go back to the way the Xbox was when they announced it at E3.
Doing a 360.
Yeah, in other words, they won't just be doing a 180. They'll add another one onto that. It will be a 360.
Going back a whole 8 years.
Yeah, people want them to go back 8 years. That's quite interesting.
Don't buy an Xbox One, just buy a 360.
So yeah, this is something I really didn't expect people to do.
It is an odd one.
I knew people would be quite annoyed because myself, as a PC gamer, we've had Draconian DRM on PC for such a long time, really. Started off with having to enter game codes to be able to activate your game, which could only be used once, so you could only have one install per on one PC. And then it transitioned into the likes of Steam, where you have to be online to access your games, but then you can play offline at any point after that, so long as it's within that login. Then they've got things such as not being able to trade games on there. I mean, these are all points that people were really upset about with the Xbox One. And me as a PC gamer, I didn't understand entirely why people were getting upset about it. I mean, I knew people who say don't have an internet connection and still like playing games. It would be a pain in the ass for them, but look, as PC gamers have done it for years now. We've been doing it for years. So I was just a bit miffed as to why people were so annoyed by that. But yeah, the Xbox was going to be doing all that. And some of the parts of this, some of the really, really good parts of this was that you could share your games with up to 5 family members. So your library would be able to be shared with 5 family members. They didn't specifically say whether your friends could share them as well, but that would be quite a cool feature. I think that would be great, really. That's something that Steam kind of is missing. So this is something that, like I said, it confused me. I wasn't too sure why people get
to have the uproar that you did have with the initial announcement. There's a shit ton of DRM. To have that uproar, then have them at 180 responding to the community as you'd want them to do, then to go back. Actually, we want what you said in the first place. It is a bit.
It's a weird way to go, but I understand why some people have actually come up and said this, because I wasn't first. I was going to be getting the Xbox 360, the Xbox One anyway, but that's literally because I think I've come from the PC gaming background, and I think PC gamers are more accustomed to the Draconian DRM that has been on PC for years.
I think it's because they've never had that kind of DRM before on consoles, and so they're not attuned to it. Therefore, they respond first of all saying, we don't want that because it restricts us, or supposedly restricts us. But actually, when they consider it for a while, oh, you know what, it's not so bad. Give it us back. But sometimes it's not as simple as that.
I think the best way to look at what Microsoft were doing was that they were creating a Steam platform for Xbox. They were going to be doing sales on there. They were going to be doing so much stuff similar to Steam, and some stuff that Steam hasn't done, which would be amazing features. But the fact that people have gone up, made the massive fuss about it, it's not the people's fault. I think it's Microsoft's fault. They didn't explain it. They did not explain it properly. They said, oh, we've got these DRM in place. They didn't explain the benefits of it.
Sound
they
harsh.
Didn't explain the sort of good features that they were going to be doing on top of that DRM until after E3.
Absolutely.
So they really did have a PR mess up there.
It has gone a bit downhill in a lot of respects, really, for Microsoft with this. So yeah, buy a PS4.
No, I'm still going with the Xbox One because for me, I prefer. The reason I have a console is more for the entertainment aspect as opposed to just gaming. As a PC gamer, I have my PC for that. That is where I do all my gaming. But when it comes to just sitting down in a living room, chilling, I want something where I can just go on, easily flick Netflix onto my TV. I can have my TV system go through the interface. I think that's all great things. And that's something why I'm going with the Xbox One over the PlayStation 4. So, you know, for me, the Xbox One is more of an entertainment system all in one as opposed to just a gaming system, which a lot of people who use Xboxes think it's just a gaming system. They have a very hardcore gaming demographic who love just gaming on them, don't use anything else.
Yeah.
But there are people out there who like those other features. Now, this is a flaw with the first event they did. They didn't explain anything to do with games at the first event. They just literally spoke about the entertainment aspect. But then at E3, when they came out and just talked about games, that was brilliant. I think that was a good thing, because not only did it allow them to have their whole E3 press conference talking about games, which is the point of E3, they managed to have two events, one talking about the sort of bits people don't care about so much, and then the other talking about the stuff people care about. But the big mess up was they did not explain the DRM at either of those events. It was all afterwards, basically, when the Microsoft bosses were having a go at the Xbox team for the mess up that they've done. So that's a pretty crazy thing. But something this brings to mind is, are PC gamers more vulnerable to draconian ethics? What do you think? Are we PC gamers more vulnerable than?
I don't know whether it's a question of vulnerability. It's more about what they're used to. They've not known anything else, essentially. They've been used to, like you say, the game codes and then Steam came along and Uplay and whatever else.
I mean, Steam, Uplay, Origin all do the same thing. You have to be online to be able to play offline. So you have to go online. As soon as you've logged in, you're allowed to play in offline mode. It's done across all of that platform. And that is what Xbox was basically doing. Every time you turn your console on, it wasn't even that. It was once a day, every 24 hours, you just had to connect to the internet. And that was better than what Steam does, because Steam, every time your PC turns on, you have to connect to play those games. Or you don't have access to the library. So,
yeah, I think it's just a confusion of what essentially they were bringing out in the first place.
Yeah.
Then Xbox panicking, saying shit, they don't like it. Let's rewind, do the
180 that they did.
And then now they're in this situation where, hang on, this is actually not too bad. We want this back.
I think people started to realise after Xbox did their 180, the stuff that Xbox didn't mention about the things that were going to happen. Because one of the lead developers on Xbox came out and he was like, I think it's a real shame that people didn't listen to what we were doing with the DRM, the things that we were going to be doing, such as the sharing games with family members, the massive sales that we're going to be doing like Steam.
And like you say, that might just be down to Microsoft's lack of clarity on the matter.
Yeah, I think it is Microsoft just didn't explain themselves properly, but I think people reacted a bit too quickly as well.
Yeah.
They went up into uproar, as the internet does, and they sort of, I think, as consumers, we've shot ourselves in the foot. Yeah, shot ourselves in the foot. We have really done that, and
it remains to be seen how big this gets. This change. It's on change.org. This petition remains to be seen how big it gets, but I don't know.
All they need to do for it to become an official petition is reach 20,000 signatures.
And they've already got about almost 18.
I will quickly check right now and see how much it is at the moment. Let me just load this up. So at the moment, they are at 18,267, and this is literally within an hour.
Need 7,000 more, essentially.
I finished up that report an hour before we started recording this podcast, and they've gone up by almost 1,000, with 6,733 remaining to get into a proper petition. So I think they're going to do it. A lot of people seem to be really desperate for this to happen, you know.
Yeah.
And I can understand why, but will Microsoft go back on it? I don't think they will.
Yeah, that's what
I think what Microsoft's going to do is they're going to start phasing them in throughout the life cycle of this console. So next E3, they may introduce one or two of the features that we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
The E3 after that, a couple more. The E3 after that, a couple more. I mean, you have to think, this console generation is going to have an 8-year life cycle. So 8 years from now, I think they're going to have all of this DRM back in place, and some really good features will be coming out by the end of this. So going into the next generation of consoles, people are going to be used to this draconian DRM that we've got.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's a good thing. I think DRM sucks. It's a bad thing, but I'm just used to it from PC. It's something I've got used to, so I don't mind it. But at first, I thought it sucked.
Yeah.
Really, really did think it sucked badly.
What would Don Matrick do?
We don't want to know what Don Matrick does.
He's
the guy that makes silly decisions, such as leaving as boss of Microsoft Xbox division to go and be the CEO of Zynga.
Yeah.
Bit of an odd move there. Very odd move there, in all honesty.
I think Zynga panicked because they're losing sales, and they offered him a pile of money, and he said, "Yeah, I'll have a payday."
I think that's literally the only reason he left, because he was going to get an increase in salary. But who knows? A few years from now, he might just say, "Yeah, I was just doing that to see what I could do with this company. I'm going to another one."
Yeah.
I mean, someone with the experience he's had it within the gaming industry, it's not going to be hard for him to find a job.
And he may even turn around Zynga.
Yeah, he could improve Zynga. But no. Come on, it's Zynga. We're talking about Zynga here. That was a silly thing to say. No one can improve Zynga. Zynga is a terrible company. Well, thanks for Farmville, Zynga. I love it. I love getting spammed with requests on my Facebook account for Farmville. Yeah. You can probably tell I don't like Zynga. It's one of the only gaming companies I really do not like. It's just their general ethics, the way they run. I mean, they're not a games company. Come on. They make point-and-click games for middle-aged women having a midlife crisis. That is what they do.
That's all right, and it works for them.
But yeah, something that we want to know is your thoughts on this matter with the Xbox One. We have a page set up on our forums where you can go and answer this question. So the question is, what do you think about the new petition? What did you originally think about the DRM? Let us know, and also let us know, are you still going to be getting the Xbox One, or are you going to be getting a PlayStation 4 instead? All of these are going to be great to hear from you. Well, like I said, down in the comment section below or over on the forums, and we'll tot up all the scores for next week and say what the general views of this, of the audience here thinks.
We'll see what the general consensus is.
So yeah, please do go and do that. And that sort of wraps up this edition of Cross Section. It's our first one. Next week we should hopefully be having a guest, and if we do, he will be visiting us via the medium of Skype and
via the interwebs.
Yeah, it should be quite fun though. Something we're wanting to do with these is wanting to have a lot of people come on as guests, whether in person if they can, or whether it's literally via the internet. So, yep, thank you so much for watching this edition of the Cross Section. And don't forget to check out our website for some great articles. All of the stuff mentioned in today's podcast are linked down below. So please do check them out. And we shall see you next week.
See you next week.